city. For New World Order. Those are the roots of trouble.
I imagine that right now you're feeling a bit like Alice, tumbling down the rabbit hole. Let me tell you why you're here. You're here because you know something. What you know you can't explain, but you feel it. You felt it your entire life. That there's something wrong with the world. You don't know what it is, but it's there, like a splinter in your mind, driving you mad. It is this feeling that has brought you to me. This is your last chance. After this, there is no turning back. You take the blue pill, the story ends. You wake up in your bed and believe whatever you want to believe. You take the red pill, you stay in Wonderland, and I show you how deep the rabbit hole goes. All I'm offering is the truth, nothing more.
For we are opposed around the world by a monolithic and ruthless conspiracy that relies primarily on covert means for expanding its sphere of influence, on infiltration instead of invasion, on subversion instead of elections, on intimidation instead of free choice, on guerrillas by night instead of armies by day. It is a system which has conscripted vast human and material resources into the building of a tightly knit, highly efficient machine that combines military, diplomatic, intelligence, economic, scientific, and political operations. Its preparations are concealed, not published. Its mistakes are buried, not headlined. Its dissenters are silenced, not praised. No expenditure is questioned, no rumor is printed, no secret is revealed. So I am asking your help in the tremendous task of informing and alerting the American people.
And now, welcome to another episode of Down the Rabbit Hole. Here's your host from federaljack.com. It's Popeye.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to tonight's live edition. It is April 8th, 2013. It is the Monday edition of tonight's live edition of Down the Rabbit Hole here on Unbound Radio. Check out the website, unboundradio.com. It's getting updated every day, new additions and features being added. You'll notice, actually, before I even get into tonight's broadcast, I want to throw this out there because I'll get sidetracked and forget about it because tonight's broadcast is going to be deep. So, if you don't get a chance to listen to the live shows, go over to unboundradio.com, and on the left side, you'll see it says latest radio shows on demand, and it'll have all the shows in chronological order there on the left from the latest ones, from the top down, and then you can go back and order that way and pick out which ones you want. And I know there's different pages being constructed archive-wise for the hosts and everything else. So over the next coming days and weeks, just keep an eye on the website because it's going to keep growing and getting larger and larger and more user-friendly every single day. Now, tonight's topic is going to be about you're going to actually hear survivors. You're actually going to hear from two different people. One that survived the regime of Adolf Hitler and then 3 years of Joseph Stalin afterwards. And then you're going to hear someone who survived Castro's Cuba and the horrific things that happened when Castro's army, whatever you want to call it, overthrew the government that was in power at the time. And you're going to hear exactly what went on. You're not going to hear me tell you about it third person. You're going to hear it right from the mouth of the person who lived it. Maybe, just maybe, what they have to say will strike a chord with someone who's not awake or doesn't really think that this means anything. All the gun control mania and police state and all this other crap, they think it's all a joke and that none of it needs to be at least looked at and taken somewhat seriously. It's not, this isn't, you're conspiracy theorists. After tonight, you cannot listen to what these people have to say and then turn around and say, they're just conspiracy theorists. If you do, then you're just not paying attention whatsoever and you're being willfully ignorant. All right, we're going to break. We'll be back in a few minutes. Don't go anywhere. When we get back, we're going to get into the testimony from people that survived tyranny. We'll be right back. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are back, and I want to get right into it. First, you're going to hear testimony from a lady named Kitty Werthmann. She grew up in Austria. She was a little girl when Austria came under Hitler's control, and you're going to hear her tell you exactly how it happened. And he didn't roll into Austria with tanks and bombs and rockets and shooting and killing people. No, quite the contrary. They voted him in with a 98% vote rate for him in his favor, whatever you want to call it. 98% of the vote he got. Wow. It's amazing what propaganda and sheer necessity because of no jobs and a crappy economy will do. Seems kind of familiar to what's going on now. Well, let's see what Kitty has to say. Again, she was speaking at a podium in at an event outside, so I adjusted the audio. I cleaned it up to get as much background noise and stuff out of. But, you know, it is what it is. But you can hear exactly what she has to say very clearly. Here we go.
I was born in Austria, and I lived there 7 years under Hitler's brutal regime. And after World War II, 3 years under Soviet communist occupation. In 1938, the media reported that Hitler rolled into Austria with tanks and guns and took us over. Not true at all. The Austrian people elected Hitler by 98% of the vote by means of the ballot box. Now, you might ask, how could a Christian nation, almost 100% Catholic, to elect a monster like Hitler? The truth is, at the beginning, Hitler didn't look like or talk like a monster at all. He talked like an American politician. In 1938, Austria was in a very deep depression. We had 1/3 of our workforce unemployed. We had 25% inflation, and if you would borrow money from the bank, you paid 25% interest. It was not unusual that my mother would feed on the average 30 people a day, a bowl of soup and a slice of bread. People would come knocking on the door. They wanted to work. There were no jobs. The depression was so bad that we had riots in the streets. There were two political factions fighting each other. Communist Party was getting very powerful. So was the Nazi Party. Now, when I speak of the Nazi Party, the Nazi Party, what we are going to be in our country, the National Socialist Party. I translate Nationalsozialism. That's where the word Nazi came from. So we heard Hitler speaking in Germany. Germany had full employment. They had law and order, and we had riots in the street. And in Germany, the people had a high living standard. They all drove the little Volkswagen, you know, the Beetle car, and there was nothing ever said that anybody was being persecuted. So when we had that unbelievable unemployment, and the people were getting so desperate, they petitioned the government for a plebiscite, for an election. And that's when we elected Hitler by 98% of the vote by means of the ballot box. So we got a new government, National Socialism, Nazi government. Of course, we had no idea what that would all be. We just thought we were all going to live a high standard of living like Germany. And Hitler promised us that within weeks we would have full employment. And he would feed the poor people. The Red Cross came in. Everybody was being fed. Everybody got something. And we were so grateful for everything. Oh, we thought Hitler was our savior. Oh, yes, he was a very good orator. He gave very good speeches, and we heard that here too, haven't we? So, when we got the new government, nobody was elected anymore. Everybody was appointed. From the school board, the county commission, the city commission, to the legislature, and to the governors. And Hitler said, the best people are being appointed. We only pick the best people, and we trusted him. So we had no more elections, none whatsoever. We also had regionalism. Regionalism is to centralize the government. Centralization is socialism. So Hitler said we have to merge our 7 states into 4. That will save money. And we only would have 4 governors. We thought that's a good idea. As a lobbyist in South Dakota, I found a bill 3 times to consolidate our 66 counties into 15. That's centralization. That's socialism. Take away local control. That's socialism. So with our new government, we got a lot of new laws. We got a very, very good law, we thought, the Equal Rights Amendment. Well, equal rights for women. Haven't we heard that here too? So the Equal Rights Amendment had 2 components, economically and socially. Economically, to redistribute the wealth of the country. And then, socially, to get all the women, the moms, out into the workforce, into employment. Oh yes, Hitler got a lot of jobs, political appointments, hundreds and hundreds of bureaucrats, and of course he built the Autobahn, the freeway. So the moms were out into the workforce. What do you think would happen to the children? The government had immediately a remedy, child care centers. So the state raised our children.
Any of this sounding familiar to anyone yet?
And by economically to redistributing the wealth, we had massive welfare. Because we had a guaranteed income, the government decreed that everybody has to be equal, have an equal income. Those who worked hard paid 70% taxes, and those who were down here, they were getting the equal income like those who worked hard. That's called socialism. Also, education was nationalized very quickly, literally overnight. I was 12 years old. I was in 6th grade. I walked into my classroom. I went to public school. We had an excellent school system. We prayed in public school. And we also had religious education twice a week. That all stopped overnight. I walked into my classroom March 13, 1938. The crucifix was gone, and there was Hitler's picture with the Nazi flag on each side. And our teacher said, today we don't pray anymore. We sing Deutschland, Deutschland über alles, the national anthem. And she said, we don't have religious education anymore either. We have physical education instead. And on Sundays, there would be National Youth Day. And that would be compulsory. Everybody had to attend. And if our parents wouldn't send us the first time, they would get a very stiff letter of warning. Second time, they would have to pay a fine of the equivalent of $300, and the third time we didn't attend was jail for our parents. Well, we couldn't go to church anymore. The first 2 hours we had political education. Today, I call it political indoctrination. We were being told not to listen to our parents. They were old-fashioned old fogies, didn't understand the youth. Only Hitler did. So we were being totally indoctrinated. And the rest of the day we had sports. We got all the equipment free. We got tennis rackets. We got golf clubs. And the boys of age 16, they got motorcycles so they could form a motorcycle squad. Not only that, they were taken out to the airfield to fly gliders. You can imagine that at the end of the day we went back home and told our parents how wonderful Hitler was, what he was doing for us, and how great everything was. And of course, we all were compulsory, had to attend the Hitler Youth. That was compulsory. We argued with our parents all the time. We said, look, you don't know anything. You are old-fashioned. You don't understand us. They put a wedge between us and our parents. So my good mother, when my next school term came around, she announced that she would take me out of this horrible public school. She would enroll me in a private school with an excellent curriculum, but no fun. And I thought, this is terrible. But she packed me off, and as we arrived at that big school with an 8-foot wall around and a locked iron gate, I bid my mother goodbye. I almost hated her. She was a wise woman. She said, someday when you grow up, you will realize what I'm doing for you. Needless to say, if my mother wouldn't have not done that, today I would be a radical Marxist. On holidays, I would go back home and visit my friends. I did not like what I saw. Girls of age 16 were pregnant to have babies for Hitler. Oh, Hitler wanted lots of babies. He knew what he all had in mind. And all this, the lifestyle was very, very, very loose, I did not like. So that was the educational system. It was literally, education was nationalized. Hitler also gave us free radios.
I'm going to pause it right there. Free radios, Like a free Obama phone? Is any of this sounding familiar to anyone yet? It should, because it's the same playbook they play from over and over and over again, because they play on our ignorance. So it's time to sit down, close our mouths, open our ears, and listen to what the people that survived epic tyranny, that survived this very thing that we're headed into, we should take the time to listen to them and see what they have to say. And pay attention. We're going to break. We're back in a few minutes. Don't go anywhere. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are back. And I want to get right back into it because we got a short segment. So I'm going to play as much audio as I can from Kitty here in the segment. And if I have to, I can always rewind it, 30 seconds to a minute when we come back in, because the next segment will be the long one and I'll be able to let her finish up. But here we go.
It was literally, education was nationalized. Hitler also gave us free radios. And then he nationalized our radio station. And we were told that if you listen to a foreign radio station, there's capital punishment. You don't turn on Switzerland or BBC, We only had one voice, the government. They ran the radio station. The newspaper were being censored before it hit the street. Hitler also looted the Jewish banks, and then he nationalized our banks. Then he nationalized our only car industry. Austria produced a little car, a little bit bigger than a Fiat. Hitler said, we don't need a Fiat. We have the Volkswagen. So everything was being nationalized. He also nationalized our healthcare system. We had, before Hitler, an excellent healthcare system, privately insured. We had good doctors, we had good hospitals, we had a lot of good research. That all stopped. It was free for everybody. Now, I remember my brother-in-law was a family physician. He told me that when he would go to his office in the morning at 8 o'clock, 40 patients were waiting for him to be cared for. People went to the doctor for everything and anything. And my brother-in-law said it was like practicing medicine on a conveyor belt. He could not take enough time for each patient because he was totally government controlled. The government took away free enterprise, salaried the doctors in the hospitals, and many, many doctors left the country because if you would need elective surgery, not emergency, you waited 18 months for a hospital bed. So many doctors left the country, including my own husband. He would not want to practice medicine like his brother had to. And when he came to the United States, he marveled how wonderful our health care is, how wonderful our research is, and how wonderful our hospitals, how modern they were. He said, I hope it never will end up in socialized medicine. Also, we had many government agencies, you know, the bureaucrats. The bureaucrats were writing all the rules and all the regulation. That's socialism. The unelected bureaucrats, and a lot of it applied to the farmers. The bureaucrats would go out on the farm and measure their land, told the farmers what to plant and how much he had to harvest. They also counted their livestock, how much they had to, since our food was being rationed, had to turn into the government. God help every farmer if they butchered the pig for themselves. He sure would go to jail. They also sent out the bureaucrats to count the chickens and ordered the chickens how many eggs they had to lay.
Did you hear the insanity in that? The bureaucrats would order the chickens how many eggs they were to lay, as if the chicken is going to look and go, yes, sir. And people think that only insane bureaucrats and only insane off-the-wall laws exist now. No, this is history literally repeating itself, ladies and gentlemen. It is literally repeating itself. The problem is the general public that's around today is so dumbed down that they don't know about this. Otherwise, it wouldn't have even gotten to the level that it's at. But between things being hidden from them by the shame stream media, and then them just being ignorant and being dumbed down via education and vaccines, well, this is what you have. That's why it's my job and other people's jobs to bring this information back to the airwaves so people can hear the truth. We're going to break. We'll be right back. We are back, ladies and gentlemen, and I want to get right back into it. Let's get back to what Kitty has to say, because there's about 12 minutes left of her testimony. And then I want to get into another audio clip for you and a few other things. So here we go.
Also, we had many government agencies, you know, the bureaucrats. The bureaucrats were writing all the rules and all the regulation. That's socialism. The unelected bureaucrats, and a lot of it applied to the farmers.
Does that sound familiar? Unelected bureaucrats going after farmers. Where do I see that today? I'm sorry. I digress. The FDA.
Bureaucrats would go out on the farm and measure their land, told the farmers what to plant and how much he had to harvest. They also counted their livestock, how much they had to, since our food was being rationed, had to turn into the government. God help every farmer if they butchered the pig for themselves. He sure would go to jail. They also sent out the bureaucrats to count the chickens and ordered the chickens how many eggs they had to lay. That's socialism. Hitler wrote a book, My Struggle, Mein Kampf. But very few people read it. Had we read it, we would have known what was coming. But the people were so busy with sports, that was everything. Athletic events were everything. But people did not read. They did not read his book.
People not reading, worshiping sports, athletic events were everything. Again, is anyone seeing a striking parallel to history? Is it just me?
We also had abortions, of course, were highly illegal. Hitler wanted a lot of babies. But if both parents were not 100% Aryan, you know, the master race, the mother, if she was pregnant, she was selected to have an abortion. Can you imagine to force you to have an abortion? That was absolutely horrible. We also had euthanasia. And I was an eyewitness to that. In my last year of college, I was sent to a small village in the Austrian Alps. You know, that village was very isolated by mountains. And in the winter time, the mountain passes were closed because of snow. And in that village, the people would intermarry. And we know by genetics that a lot of offsprings were mentally handicapped. And in that village, there were 15 of them. One I know very well, Vincent, our janitor. He could not speak very well. He could not read and write. But all these people, they did good manual work. So one day, the health department came to the families and asked them if they would want to send their son or daughter to an institution to learn how to read and write and maybe learn a trade like basket weaving. Gladly the parents signed the papers. Off they went. I remember that morning I looked out of my classroom window and I saw Vincent and all these people going into the health department van, and they were taken away. And I thought they were going for an outing, but I asked my principal, and he said, no, they're going into an institution to learn how to read and write. And I said, oh, that's wonderful. 6 months passed. The letters came back to the parents that they died a natural but merciful death. They all were in excellent health when they left. Why should they die within 6 months? It dawned on us, and the news traveled very fast in the village that they were being euthanized. We also had a federal police force, commonly known as the Gestapo, and they were everywhere, everywhere, in civilian clothes. You didn't know who they were. But it wasn't like this, since our food was all rationed. And somebody in your family passed away like grandma. So you quickly took that coveted pound of sugar and went to the grocery store and got that pound of sugar. And then the next day the Gestapo would knock on your door and they said, we know you bought that pound of sugar instead of turning in the coupon by law, but you have to inform on your neighbor, your boss, your friends, everybody you know. And you come to our office once a week. But if you don't do that, then we will arrest you. That way they had a network of informers. We didn't trust the mailman. We couldn't trust anybody who came to our house. And when we talked something politically in our family, we only whispered. So that was the informants, the Gestapo, and they were everybody. And we were deadly scared of the Gestapo because people disappeared all the time. We also had gun registration. Oh, the Austrian people they all had guns. But the government said the guns are very dangerous. Children are playing with guns, hunting accidents happen, and we really have to have total control, safety.
It just seems to me it's blatantly obvious. I don't even have to say anything. I wish you guys could see my face right now. I really do. Is anyone paying attention? I know you are. Ladies and gentlemen, I know you are. I'm just... history is repeating itself.
And we had criminals again. And the only way that we can trace the criminal was by the serial number of the gun. So we dutifully went to the police station and we registered our guns. Not long after, they said, no, it didn't help. The only way that we don't have accidents and crimes, you bring the guns to the police station and then we don't have any crimes anymore and any accidents. And if you don't do that, capital punishment.
So, they were told that if they had a gun registration, like what has been pushed, even though they say that, no, that's not what happens, and you would never have registration, or they're even talking about registration, and you have, what was it, Connecticut? They just passed registering magazines. So registration always leads to confiscation, right? People say, no, 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 no. They just need to know who's got what, so that way if someone does something bad. Really? Well, you just heard what she said. They were told the same crap. And then right afterwards, the powers that shouldn't be turned around and said, no, you know what, that didn't work, so we're just going to take all the guns instead. But no, that couldn't happen here. I'm crazy, and so is everybody else that says that. We're just gun nuts.
So that's what we did. Hitler also nationalized our churches. He said those beautiful cathedrals need a lot of upkeep and restoration, and there's not enough money coming in by private donation on Sunday. So we have to have a church tax.
Nationalization of churches. DHS working with pastors to get their flocks to acquiesce to the government and give up their weapons while claiming Romans 13, which just happened to be one of Adolf Hitler's favorite verses. But hey, I'm crazy because I see a pattern. I see parallels to history. I'm crazy because I don't watch The Hills or Dancing with the Stars or whatever other useless crap is on TV, because I pay attention to people like Kitty. Very important to pay attention to history.
So when they pay their income tax, you pay 2% church tax. That way, Hitler could control the churches. No pastor could speak out anymore. So
kind of like the IRS does. They take away, what is it, there's 501c3 status, I think it's called, where they don't have to pay taxes on the money they get as a church, unless, of course, they speak out about anything quote-unquote political, and then the IRS goes after them. Any parallels?
Dictatorship didn't happen overnight. It took 5 years, gradually, little by little, to escalate up to a dictatorship. And of course, with the Gestapo, and I also should relate to you, it was probably last year in February in 2009, I drove to the Capitol one morning as a lobbyist, turned on the radio, and I heard President Obama say, anybody who is criticizing him, report it to the White House, the snitch program. So be careful what you say. Our borders were being closed. Nobody could get in and nobody could get out. We were sitting ducks. That's what happened to us. Also, I had the opportunity in November 1985 to go to Switzerland to the summit conference between President Reagan and Premier Gorbachev. I was to accommodate the American women who went over there to support President Reagan. My other mission was to infiltrate the Communist Peace March. And I came in disguise as a horrible-looking hippie. I marched with Bella Abzug, the congresswoman, the late congresswoman, Jesse Jackson, and Barbara Boxer. And as we arrived at the Hotel Hilton for the press conference, I saw a group of people there who were not at the Peace March. And I walked up to a woman and I said, how come you were not at the Peace March? And she said, well, we are all members of the German Communist Party, and we couldn't get legally into Switzerland, so we were over the mountains. Hence, all their muddy boots and torn jackets. So I said, well, tell me more about what is the occasion, what you are doing here. Well, first of all, she said, we are supporting Premier Gorbachev. And I said, well, that's also interesting. Tell me more. What are your real goals? So she said, well, right now we take Nicaragua and Honduras, then we go into Mexico. And I said, why Mexico, such a poor, corrupt country? She said, that is our major goal. I said, why? To take back the territory what America stole from us. California, New Mexico, Arizona, Texas. And I said, look.
I'm going to pause it right there, ladies and gentlemen, because we're coming up to the break in a few seconds. On the other side, I will finish it up with the last few minutes of audio from Kitty Werthmann. Now, this woman, again, lived. She lived through not one, but two different types of tyranny. Remember, first she lived under the Nazis for 7 years. And then after that, she lived under communist control for 3 years, under Stalin. She understands that it's the left and the right of the same agenda that meet in the middle. We'll be right back. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are back. Final segment of the first hour, but do not fret. We still have hour number 2 coming up. I want to finish up this final segment with the last of the audio from Kitty Werthmann. Here we go.
You cannot do this. You need a lot of people. It sounds to me like a revolution. She said, you Americans are so naive. Your churches are doing the work for us. And it hit me like a ton of bricks, the sanctuary movement. There are a lot of churches who are bringing in the illegals. So I said to her, tell me, when is this event supposed to happen? She said, that all depends who your president is. Maybe 2004, but most possible 2008. Who is our president? And look what's happening at the border. When I saw on television in Los Angeles when they marched, they carried the Mexican flag and they trampled on the American flag. It dawned on me, they're here. When the people fear the government, that's tyranny. But when the government fears the people, that's you, the Tea Party. That's liberty. Keep your guns, and buy more guns. America is still a Christian nation, no matter what Obama says. I am an optimist. God is still on the throne. He did. Thank you. He did not fail us in Austria when the Americans liberated us, and he will save America. We have to take our country back as we know it. We have to take the U.S. Senate back. We have to take the White House back. My speech is out there, and it's designed as a house party that you buy my CD and invite 5 or 6 people to your home and play the CD. We did that in South Dakota. We elected a very conservative congresswoman. I went to Minnesota. We elected Michelle Bachmann. And we defeated a very liberal Democrat in Minnesota who was in for 18 years. And I am speaking all over the United States, everywhere, this year, last year, and next year. We have to take America back as we know it. Those of us who sailed past the Statue of Liberty, we came to a country of unbelievable freedom and opportunity. America is the greatest country in the world if we can keep it. God bless America, and God bless you.
There you have it, right from the mouth of a survivor. Now, I'm not going to bash her on her views about liberal versus conservative. It's, two puppets on the left and the right hand of the same shadowy individual, like the front of my T-shirt shows. Uncle Jack, I call him. But she survived something horrific, and I'm not going to attack her for her political views. I personally don't think that going back to, quote-unquote, anything is going to solve any problems. And we really can't go backwards. That's not what's happening. Things are changing. It's just we don't understand, or the mass public at large doesn't understand really what's going on. And they still buy into this left-right argument because you have to have this us versus them argument and this distraction, so people don't understand that the simple solution is if they just evolved away from running to your government to save you from whatever fictitious monsters they tell you need to be saved from to begin with, right? Then we would not even fall prey to this type of behavior anymore. We would level up. The video gamers will know what I'm talking about. We would literally level up. But in due time. All right, hour number 2 coming up, ladies and gentlemen. I'm going to play some more audio for you and then get into a few other things, but I want you to hear from a survivor of Castro's Cuba. First the Nazis, now hardcore communism. We'll be right back. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to hour number 2 of tonight's live edition of Down the Rabbit Hole. I'm your host, Popeye from FederalJack.com. It is April 8th, 2013, and you are listening to me live on Unbound Radio, unboundradio.com. Check it out. You can find us on TuneIn. If you have a smartphone, download the TuneIn app. And you can just download right from, iTunes, the store, the Google App Store, whatever phone you have. Just type in TuneIn Radio. It's a free app. You can get the professional one. I don't know. I think you can record radio shows with the professional version. I don't know what the big difference is. But there's a free version where you can just download it. Look up unboundradio.com or just Unbound Radio, rather. You'll see the little silver shield. And it says unboundradio.com on it, and then, bam, click on it, save it to your favorites, now it's in your phone. If you have certain cars like Ford, I think they're Ford Focuses, if I remember, and I think there's other cars coming out with it, internet-ready cars, we'll say, I believe that you can get the TuneIn app in your car as well. So now you can pick up internet radio as well as your regular FM and AM. And Unbound will be coming to AM and FM quite soon, so stay tuned for that as well. Follow us on Twitter and on Facebook. At Twitter, it's at Unbound Radio Net. And again, it's the same symbol that we have up now. We're working on some different graphics and stuff, and any updates and stuff in the future we'll let you know, but it's pretty simple right now to find us on Facebook, Twitter, and the net. And like us, add us to your favorites all across the board, however you do it, and tune in. The lineup is pretty awesome, at least from my viewpoint, and it's only growing and getting better by the day. So stay tuned for new hosts coming. We got people like Jason Burmis here. We have people like Joe Joseph, my good buddy. Shepard's here. Shepard Ambellis, the owner of the whole thing, and he owns the IntelliHub. He actually takes, after not only does he work a full-time job and he has to worry about Unbound and in the IntelliHub, he's also doing a film, and then he does his radio show on top of it. I don't know where Shepard finds the time. I've often told him off air that I would love to know where he gets the 25th and 26th hour in a day to find the time to do all this stuff. Anyway, we also have changed the channel. You got to check his show out. And we even have a Spanish language show on, I believe Servando is on, I think he's on 2 nights a week on the weekends. I know he's on at least one, but I believe he's on 2 nights a week. And it's a Spanish language show. I mean, that's pretty cool. I think it's pretty cool that we have a broadcast dedicated specifically to the Spanish audience. And I've talked about this on when Johnny English was on with me. Living in Miami, trying to reach that audience, it's hard because the only thing that they have a lot of times is like Univision and stuff, and that's all owned by this corporate elitists, Illuminati, whatever you want to call them, and it pumps out propaganda, and all the Spanish-controlled networks are always pumping out propaganda, whether it's ours up here, Univision, whatever, statist propaganda in Central America. So now there's something that can go worldwide, that there's an alternative for them. So keep an eye on Unbound Radio, ladies and gentlemen. We'll be right back. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are back. And as promised, I want to play another piece of audio for you. Recently, and I don't know the exact date, but recently, I guess in Oregon, they were having another debate, if you will, about gun laws and gun control and stricter gun legislation, the need for common sense gun legislation, which I don't. Is there such a thing as common sense gun legislation? Really? I mean, common sense went out the window, I don't know, at least 100 miles back. Common sense gun legislation. I hate that terminology. The word magic they use to get people to believe things. That's what really gives this this whole retardation of society and the things that they can get away with. That's what gives a lot of this power. Is people have no idea even what they're talking about. They say big words and they misuse them, and people go, oh. Well, they're wearing suits and they sound official, so I guess they know what they're talking about. Right. Like Dianne Feinstein thought that PTSD came from the Iraq War. And then there's that other one. I got to find the audio for this and play it for you guys. If I could find it, maybe later I will. This one politician, legislator, whatever you want to call her, she's one of the ones behind the push for this magazine ban, and she says the reason why she was doing it was because once the people shoot all their magazines and run out of bullets, they'll have, they won't have any more magazines because they'll have to throw them away. As if you can't just reload it with more ammunition, lady. Well done. This is the reason she wants to push for getting rid of high capacity magazines. They don't even know that you can reload them. Again, that's a problem. They're ignorant. And then they have people that pump their fears up. Remember, all these politicians have people that handle them. Usually CIA handlers. Don't think I'm joking. Don't think it's tinfoil hattery. It's not. Anyway, so in Oregon they're having this gun control debate, if you will, and this old guy walks up. Older gentleman, I should say, should be respectful. It's an older gentleman named Manuel Martinez, and he walks up and he sits down, and he pretty much, in 4 minutes, he schools this whole panel of politicians, or whatever they want to call themselves, bloodsuckers, leeches. He schools them. He witnessed what it was like when Castro took over. Now let's listen to what he has to say. It's only 4 minutes. If you guys can go over on federaljack.com, I actually have the video embedded up there with an article. It's titled "Communism Survivor Blasts Salem Gun Grabbers." Quote, "You don't know what freedom is," end quote. And you'll hear him. If you go watch the video, if you go to federaljack.com, you can see the video as well. And you got to see his face. You got to see, he's not kidding. This isn't some practiced, what do they call it, AstroTurf event. That's what they like to call it when that's their new flavor of the week. Oh, it's manufactured grassroots. Yeah, okay. Listen.
My name is Manuel Martinez, born in Cuba. American citizens for more than 40 years. I oppose any manipulation, any regulation, elimination, or disturb of the Second Amendment of the Constitution of the United States. In 1959, a revolution with individuals, malicious individuals, masquerading as Democrats, revolutionaries, established a regime, a dictatorial regime in my nation called communism, socialism, Stalinism, Marxism, and whatever the name ism you want to put it. The reason was done to take away the guns from the people, the right of the people to wear guns. That is a God-given right. It's not given by anybody. It's not given by any group. It's the same thing as freedom, which is a God-given right, and no one, absolutely no one, has the authority to take it away. This is to defend the Second Amendment and my God-given right of freedom will cease only with my death. I've been through it. I've been there. You people don't know what freedom is because you never lost it. You haven't been the tortures. You haven't been the assassinations. You haven't been mothers begging for the life of their son not to be killed because the only reason they want is to be free. And they kill the mothers and they killed the son. So my way to protest, the way to oppose, is because if we are tangling with the Second Amendment, we are open the same way that Cuba was open for communism, China, Poland, Hungary, Czechoslovakia, Venezuela, on and on. A dictatorial regime that will destroy this country in the same way that destroyed those ones that I mentioned to you. Gun control do not protect anybody. Don't protect the citizens. Don't protect the people. The only reason for the gun control is the government to protect from them citizens. In that way, the government can vassalage, manipulate the people, and subjugate them. That's what happened in Cuba for 52 years, 54. I came here for freedom. At the time I came here was different. This country opened the arms for me. I couldn't get it in Cuba. And they opened the arms for me. I probably wouldn't get it here today. I hope that I get clear with you and you understand my point of view. I think that's conclude my testimony.
Mr. Martinez, thank you very much for coming forward. Are there any questions? We have a panel here that's going to be coming up.
You can see the head of the committee. It's like, you have any questions? Okay, moving on. And they're just continuing on with their business. You should see the looks on the faces of the people. When you get a chance, go to Federal Jack and just look at the video for 4 minutes. You don't have to read any other article if you want. You can leave. You don't have to read anything else. I don't care. Just go watch the video for 4 minutes. First, you'll see his face. Then you get a chance to see the look on these cowards' faces when he's done schooling them. They have no idea what they're talking about. Oh, well, don't worry about you. You sit down, sir. I'm glad that you came and spoke, but sit down. Shh, shh, shh. That's how they treat these people. It's okay. Shh, shh, shh. Absolutely disgusting. The guy you heard just trying to push it, moving on, his name, Floyd Przansky. He is, I guess, the head of the anti-gun committee that this guy was, that Mr. Manuel Martinez was testifying in front of, as well as others. But you can see how they, when they have an agenda, they don't really care if you have something to say. In fact, they don't want you to speak at all. They would prefer that people like Mr. Martinez wouldn't, not come up. I can't even speak tonight. They would prefer that people like Mr. Martinez not come up and sit down at the table and speak to everybody and tell them what he witnessed. They don't want anybody to know about what really happened. They'd rather you think whatever Hollywood version that you've seen. More than 50% of the people that you interact with right now on a daily basis, I'm willing to bet more than 50%, or at least 50%, I'll say, not more. We'll say 50%. I'm willing to bet money that at least 50% of the people out there get their quote-unquote history from movies, from films, because nobody really reads anymore. Everybody watches television. When they go, when they go to school, they're not really taught anything. They're taught the stuff to pass these standardized tests, and then after they pass these standardized tests, a lot of times they're watching films. And the teacher, if they have a good teacher, the teacher will bring in maybe a documentary that'll make them think, right? Something real. But a lot of times, it's the Hollywood version of things that is pushed. So go talk to somebody and ask them a historical question. The only thing they're going to know is whatever came out of their little history book, and it's not the same as it was when I was a kid, where they just had history books with a short paragraph maybe about the Revolutionary War, and that's it. No, they're not even having books anymore. They just have computers and tablets, and they get ready for these standardized tests. So kids only know what they see on television and the movies, right? So that's why you see certain historical documentaries and certain things covered over the course of time. Well, you don't think movies are for manipulation of society? Come on. Take a step back. Watch how Hollywood's, the stuff that they pump out, watch how that matches society. See what affects what. See if society affects Hollywood or if it's the other way around. And I'm not saying that every Hollywood star knows all this. Some of them probably. In fact, most of them know. Most of them know that at one point or another that they are having an effect on society. Come on. They can't be that dumb. It's not really called the entertainment business. They call themselves culture creators. Why do you think that is? Wait, what's that? What's that term again? Culture creation. Well, don't you think the powers that shouldn't be would have their finger on that button so that they can create different societies, they can create the culture inside of a society, manipulate it perhaps? You don't think perhaps people have that ability? No, we're not that far evolved, Popeye. Come on. Our government's not that not that smart. They're inept. They couldn't, they can't even run the post office. Actually, the post office runs quite well and efficient, besides the fact that they do have some cranky employees behind the counter and some, in certain spots there are some nutty people that work for the post office. The post office itself actually works flawlessly. The problem isn't with the post office. The post office actually used to be in the black, as they say, financially, until about 2007 when they started to be required to fund a future benefit program 75 years into the future. And then when they said, hey, we've overpaid by like $75 billion into this fund, we'd like to perhaps have some of this money back so we could have a better operational budget and not be so cash-strapped, the blood-sucking politicians turn around and said, it's empty because we used it for other things. So who's really the problem? It's not really inept government. It's greedy scumbaggery. There's a huge difference. They get you to think that they're inept. Does anybody know the oldest trick in the book is to pretend you're stupid so people think less of you and expect less from you? And then it's like being at a job if you want to get by and not do anything, right? You can pretend you're a moron and the only thing they'll have you do is maybe go out and sweep or throw the trash out. And you get to go screw off and smoke cigarettes or whatever behind the building, right? People know what I'm talking about. But in reality, you're not stupid at all. You're smart. You're playing them. Hello? What do you think they do? They pretend they're stupid. Oh, that happened? I'm sorry. I'm an idiot. I didn't know that was going to happen. That's my fault. I'm inept. Meanwhile, they're stabbing you in the back, raping grandma, stealing your wallet. Time to wake up and pay attention. We'll be right back. We are back, ladies and gentlemen. You see all the propaganda around you as of late? Is everybody paying attention? See what's being pushed on them? Day after day after day after day. It's the same stuff that you heard Kitty warning about. It's the same stuff that you just heard Mr. Martinez warn about. Well, did you see the latest commercial from MSNBC? They had one of their hosts come out. Her name is Melissa Harris Perry. She's actually a professor, I believe, if I remember correctly. She's actually a professor, and now she's, I think she's an author, professor, and she's got, now she's a host over at MSNBC. Listen to what she said about your kids, the ones that, you created with your wife or your husband, that you two got together and created in a private, loving moment, whatever way, shape, or form, even if it was an oops, right? Little joke, ha ha ha. And they're telling you that even though the kid gestated in your stomach for 9 months, ladies, it's not your kid. It's the collective's kid. I'm not kidding. I mean, it's right out in your face now. Listen to this.
We have never invested as much in public education as we should have because we've always had kind of a private notion of children. Your kid is yours and totally your responsibility. We haven't had a very collective notion of these are our children. So part of it is we have to break through our kind of private idea that kids belong to their parents or kids belong to their families and recognize that kids belong to whole communities. Once it's everybody's responsibility and not just the households, then we start making better investments.
Yeah, and then as she's saying better investments, it says lean forward. It, like the words lean forward appear over her. Should say lean leftward. Any questions at all as to what their agenda is? Does anyone really need to even ponder what their agenda is? It's right in your face. It's literally right in our face. They don't care. I mean, that's the kind of hubris they have, ladies and gentlemen. It's literally, they're not even going to hide it anymore. They don't have to. Because now it's moved to that stage, to that point where, like I said, they're backed into a corner, so they have to speed things up. And you'll see people buy into this. Well, I do agree, we should leave better children to the planet. Oh, I totally agree. But that means each parent as an individual steps up to the plate and takes the individual responsibility to raise a better child and leave a smarter, better child to the future generations of this planet, because that's really what you're doing. But again, that's personal responsibility on that parent's behalf. You shouldn't be lazy sacks of crap and go out and get knocked up and have 8 kids and then say, oh, it's cool, don't worry, the state will come in and take care of it. I mean, what are you then, a breeding cow? Seriously, then you're nothing more than cattle. You're filling the stereotype that these people, the powers that shouldn't be, have of us. They think we're nothing more than useless eaters, cattle, that should be just tossed around and thrown away. So why not? I guess just why not? Go out and pump out 8 kids and be just a piece of breeding stock then. No, not me. I refuse to be treated like a piece of cattle. And most people don't want to be treated like a piece of cattle. It's time to wake up and see what's going on. I want your thoughts on this, ladies and gentlemen. I'm going to open up the phone lines in the last half hour of the broadcast. 877-456-7631. 877-456-7631. I want to hear your thoughts. I want to know if what you've heard tonight so far has set off any alarm bells. If any of you out there see anything parallel with what you heard Miss Werthmann say as to what you see going on today in your country. I do. I see a lot of parallels. But I want to know what you out there see. I want to know if you think, nah, or if you actually see what I see. And I want to know if you think that, yeah, we are headed down a slippery slope and people need to wake up. Whatever. I want to hear your thoughts. 877-456-7631. 877-456-7631. Call in, and on the other side of the break, because we're coming up to the break, I'll keep an eye on the phone lines, and I'll give it a few minutes, and then I'll, like I said, when we come back on the other side of the break for the last half hour of the show, I'll leave it open lines in case anybody wants to call in and give me their take. I got a few other things I want to get into, but if you want to call in, I'll take your calls. We're going to break. We'll be right back. We are back, ladies and gentlemen. The call board's got a whole bunch of calls already stacked up. I'm psyched. Rock on. Anybody else that wants to call in, 877-456-7631. 877-456-7631. And I'm going to go to the call board in one quick second. But really quick, I've gotten a couple emails over the past couple days forwarded to me by Joe, because I know that for some reason I've never had luck with this email that I made, my Yahoo email I made for the radio show. So I'm just going to give out my the old email I've used since I started doing this a very, very long time ago. It's a Gmail that I made eons ago, A lot of people, it's, I've used over the years. A lot of people know of it, but I'll give it out anyway. It's VFOR911@gmail.com. It's easy to remember. The letter V, FOR911@gmail.com. V4911@gmail.com. Even my snoring Shih Tzu in the background that you can hear over here, that I call Snoring Dog, even she says it's easy. Right, Snoring Dog? VFOR911@gmail.com. And if anybody wants to send me any stories or say, hey, Popeye, check this out. You might, this might interest you. Questions, comments, anything, feel free to email me. VFOR911@gmail.com. V for 911@gmail. All right, I'm going to go over to the phone lines. First up, let me bring up Ramon in Miami. Ramon, are you with me?
Yes, sir. What's going on, Popeye?
How's it going? What do you think about all this craziness?
It's exactly what you just called it, man. I really don't understand why people don't see it for what it is. First things first, they destroyed the community, and by they, I mean the establishment, the government, or whatever you want to refer them as. Secondly, now they're destroying the family, and they have the nerve to tell us that they're going to collectively take our children. If people aren't seeing what's going on, man, I really don't know what's going to have to happen for people to wake up to reality.
Yeah, it's scary, man. And I know Miami myself because we're based out of South Florida, and you always think South Florida, it's in the South, it's Florida. Everybody down here loves freedom, loves this, loves that. And you would think that a lot of the people that come from these different, like, communist-type countries or dictator countries or, banana republics or whatever would want to get away from that. But they end up coming here, and then for some reason a lot of them end up wanting to turn this into where they left. And it's like, then why the hell did you even bother coming here? You should just go home then. Why bother coming over here and changing things? I thought you wanted to come here because you liked it. Not all of them are like that. It's this weird, it's really strange because there's this strange divide where it's more the younger ones than the older ones. The older ones that escaped Castro, they know what's up. But the younger ones, it's like their kids and their grandkids that didn't pay attention and think, oh, they're crazy. Just like what Kitty said. When she said the state would tell the kids, oh, they don't know what they're talking about. Your parents are, crazy, whatever, they're old-fashioned. That's what they tell the kids today, right?
Yeah, they absolutely do. And I've noticed, I'm only 24, so I've noticed most people in my generation, my age range, they're really not aware of what's going on. Most of them, they're in their little bubble living their lives. But at the same time, I've also noticed that those of us who are aware are more proactive than, maybe your average older person who's aware, because, like you said, they've experienced dictatorships and, different communist regimes. But the only difference is they didn't experience it the way they're experiencing it here in America. See, it's a slow process. There, it seemed to be just a one-day thing. Not necessarily one day, but it was a more quick process. They were more violent and more open with what they were doing. Here is more of a psychological warfare thing to make you feel guilty and accept what they're doing to you.
Exactly. And they do it right. That's the same way they did it in the UK. If you go listen to what the UK people talk about when they gave up their guns, it's exactly what they did. They made them feel guilty. They shamed them into giving up their guns, and that's exactly what they're doing here. What do they keep saying? It would be a shame if we don't do something. Shame on us if we don't do something. And that's literally how they talk. They're trying to play this. It's an appeal to emotion. They're trying to play on your shame, your self, your sense of self, your ego. Oh my God, how am I going to be looked at in the collective? Because I didn't go along to get along. Screw that. Be the black sheep. Stand out.
Absolutely, man. And I think anybody who really takes a chance to actually sit back and look at the information, it's blatant, man. You know, we're out here risking our reputation, our lives, our family, our health, and everything to try to wake people up, because the only way we're going to achieve anything is if the people get behind us. The only reason anything hasn't happened on a major scale, in my opinion, is because we still have too many skeptical people, even though, you know, you have Joe Biden calling for a new world order, Rahm Emanuel, and all these different people. They'll still, you know, put out polls and ask you questions like, do you believe in a fake new world order, even though they're calling for it. So it's psychological warfare, man.
I completely concur. Well said, man. You sound like you are a very awake individual.
I try, man. Thanks to people like you, I really appreciate, you know, you guys putting your neck out there to just give an alternative view on reality, you know. I'm not going to say I agree with everything everybody says, but I'll definitely give it a chance.
Well, first of all, I want to say thank you for tuning in. I want to say thank you for taking the time to call in and having the courage to, you know, speak up over the phone line and at least step up and say, yeah, you know what, I agree, this is crazy. And if you want to hear any of my older shows, you can go over to my website. It's free, federaljack.com. If you go over there, I have an archive section, and you can download. Not only can you listen to them on either the website or on YouTube, but there's also a little spot where you can download them to your phone if you want in MP3 format and listen to all my my past years before I came over here to Unbound. I've done another 2 years of radio, so you can go rip all that stuff for free if you want and check it out.
Oh, yeah, man, I've been checking you out since you was on the old network. You know, we're not going to give them any free promotion, but I'm definitely supporting you. I think I sent you a tweet not too long ago letting you know no matter where you go, man, we're going to support the real. Unbound Radio, we appreciate you keeping real radio alive.
Awesome. Ramon, thank you so much, man. And feel free to call in anytime. I'm going to go get to the other callers because we only got a few minutes left before we go to break. But I really want to thank you for calling in and thank you for listening and supporting Unbound, man. It's really appreciated.
No problem, man.
And hopefully in the future we're going to have some swag and stuff. When we start doing swag giveaways, I'll make sure that when you call in, I'll give you some bumper stickers and stuff, and you can pass the bumper stickers around to your friends all over Miami. That'd be awesome. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to go to the next caller. It's going to be, let's see, Royal Oak, Michigan. Royal Oak, Michigan, are you with me?
Is that me? I think that's me.
Yes, ma'am.
My name is... Hi. You said the word hubris, and that is an unusual word. You don't hear it very often. But what that word means is it's disrespect for the gods. It comes from the Greek, and it means that people think that they're better than God, and that was a big offense to the Greeks. And if you think about it, the next thing you talked about was the procreation rights of parents. Do they have ownership of their kids? But our whole country was based on this idea that each man is his own authority. Okay? He owns himself. He owns his property. He gets to determine for himself what he wants to do with his life. And this government is right now so upside down. They have tried to remove man's connection to any higher authority but government. And we're in big trouble. I mean, we're in huge trouble. So I just wanted to point out the word hubris is very precise and very good because these guys think that they're God. And they've done everything they could to take God and God's authority, which gives man his individual independence and liberty, and assume it for themselves, and that's a scary thing.
I agree 100%. That's what they're doing with the geoengineering. That's what they're doing with this, the GMO foods. I mean, they literally think that they're God and they're playing God.
They do, and it's on every level. I mean, seriously. If you look, it's on every single level, from our education to the creation, evolution myth, to the monetary system being gold, which is, technically an original monetary system built in this planet by the Creator. I mean, every single place the Creator has put one set of rules to keep man free that we can rely on, whether you believe in God or not. It's still not man-made. They have substituted a man-made regime, and it's based on the collective. the collective popular opinion. And it's dangerous. I mean, every single aspect, even the weather. They do interfere with the weather. I mean, there's nothing left in the hands of the, where it's supposed to be. So yeah, we're in big trouble, huge trouble.
Well said. I agree. Again, another awake individual. It's nice to hear from people that really know and understand what's going on around them, because, I mean, that's part of this too, is they keep us all separated from one another. The part of this illusion is that, oh, nobody else out there thinks like you. You're a lone nut. You're crazy. Nobody else thinks that way. Everybody else sees what it is, which is what the government tells us, and you're just a lone nutbag. When in reality, there's a lot more people out there that think like you and see what's going on around them, but they're afraid because they buy into somewhat that propaganda that they're alone. And maybe they don't buy into it, but they're not sure, and they don't want to stick their necks out just quite yet. So it's good to hear people like you and the last caller.
Yeah, I know. It's scary to put our neck out. For the last 2 years, my license plate has said LTDGOV, and I was almost reluctant to spend $150 to get that license plate renewed this year, because I know where we're going. I know where we're going. I know what this means. And what they've done is they've put a straight line. It's a demographic line between those who have themselves created stuff for themselves, that, your property, your savings, your assets that you as a human have created. And then they've made those people afraid of loss. And then those kids who are voters, who have never worked a day in their life, who have no clue what is really coming at them from people who talk like this, that's the other side. And they have literally drawn a line between those who have a vested interest in preserving their creations and those who have no clue what it's like to create. And this whole notion of creator is huge and essential. I think everybody needs to really think about what it means to create, and only let the creator make the authority and decisions of impact over those things that are created. So if we didn't create the sky, man has no business to mess with the weather. If we didn't create the kid, we have no business to interfere in how that child is, if we didn't create the, farm, we got no business to tell the farmer what to do. And we can't interfere in shared resources. But other than that, it's a location of I don't know what the word is, like, you only have control over what you make. Nobody else's business. You can't interfere with other people, but the creator of that realm of power is the boss, has to be.
I agree.
Does it make
No, it does make sense. I agree 100%. We're coming up to a break. I want to thank you so much for taking the time to call in and actually having the courage to get into something deep like that. I like people that think. I like people that have the courage to think outside the box and actually have the courage to talk about it. I agree. I don't think my views on what people would say, I guess the creator are not much different, but a little different than perhaps maybe what some people might think or believe. I believe that there's some sort of creative force. What it is, I don't think any of us really know just quite yet, but I'm sure we'll find out one day. All right, we're going to break. We'll be right back. We are back, ladies and gentlemen. Final segment of tonight's live edition of Down the Rabbit Hole, but have no fear, we will be back tomorrow night at 10 p.m. And as I was saying, getting into the break, I didn't have enough time to cover it really quick, so I'll cover it in the last few minutes. I don't think that any of us have been told the accurate truth about whatever the creative force that created us and that is created all of us, whatever that includes. I don't think we've been told the accurate information, at least what man knows about it, and that's because if we're kept at a more ignorant level, we're easier to control. Now, I mean, there's got to be a reason why a lot of this stuff is locked up in the vaults of the Vatican archives. I know. It sounds like a conspiracy theory. Well, two or more people getting together to do something bad is a conspiracy, right? So if I have a theory that they locked all that stuff under the vault, or in the vault underneath the Vatican, to hide it away from mankind and the collective consciousness and intellect and intelligence, that would not really be, I guess, a theory anymore. It would be a fact. So it would be conspiracy fact. So I don't really know or am going to come on air and pretend that I have the answer and say to you, I know what exactly, for lack of a better term, God or the creator or whatever of all things is, because I don't. That would be arrogant of me to come on and say, oh, I know exactly what it is. I don't doubt for a minute that there's some sort of creative force that created all of us. I see it around me every day when I see insects and I see butterflies. And I see my dogs and my cats and my beautiful wife. I see my niece. When I see her smile. When I see my nephews. When I see my father. When I see my neighbors. When I see anything. When I see nature. Obviously something had to create all this. There's life force in everything. Everything has an essence. So it doesn't make me shut down or live in fear or whatever. Wherever we come from, wherever our essence comes from, that it's some sort of dude in a whatever you want to. I mean, it doesn't matter what religion, whoever you believe in, right? It's some sort of dude that if you piss him off, he's going to send you into a place that you really don't want to be. That's not what I think at all. I think a lot of that is created by man to control other men. My creative force, my God, whatever you want to call him, wouldn't be running around smiting people left and right and setting them on fire and pissing in their cornflakes every chance he got. I mean, why create things then? Why create all this beauty that's around us? Doesn't make any sense. So I don't want anybody thinking that, you don't believe in God or you don't believe in a creative force. I call it the universe because I don't know what it is. I'm not going to anthropomorphize it because why would I create it in man's image? Well, the Bible says man was created in God's image. Well, that's what the Bible says, but the Bible was written by man, and so were all these other different books about all these other different religions. Let's think outside the box. That's why whatever force that is out there that created us gave us the brain power we have, free thought. I would love to know where the inside of us, the soul, whatever that animates these bodies, these biological computers that we roll around in and day out. I would love to know where it comes from. Even the earth itself has somewhat of an essence. It's got its own, I guess you could call it a heartbeat. The Schumann resonance. We all actually our hearts beat in tune with that. I mean, there's so much out there, so much more. And it's all true, ladies and gentlemen. It's all true. We just need to realize it and pay attention. We need to see the beauty around us. We need to not be afraid. But that's what they want. They want you to be afraid to look around you. They want you to be separated from everything, whether you believe in a religion or you don't, but you believe maybe something like I do. They want you separated from that. There is nothing. It's only here and now. And then they want you separated from the ones you love. They want you separated from your kids. They want you separated from everything so you're alone. And when you're alone and afraid, they can control you because they'll come over and say, don't worry, my son or my daughter. And they'll put their arm around you and they'll say, I am Superman, I am Daddy, and I will come protect you. You know what? You don't need them. You don't. Look inside yourself. That creative force that's out there gave us the strength that we need at birth. We've had it this whole time. You all have it. Nobody's special. We all have it. Remember that. You have the true power, ladies and gentlemen. It's time to stand up and use it.
This is Sparta!
And with that, I will bid you adieu until tomorrow night.